And now, we proudly present Suggs from Madness in Conversation.
Naughty boys in nasty schools, headmasters breaking all the rules, having fun and playing.
Tonight at Coco, what used to be the Camden Palace in London, Madness have a launch show for their new record, which is out next month. And we get to spend time with another British music legend here on the show, who started out in the late 70s. But in the 80s, well, his group became one of the most successful ever, with some career breaks and a few little avenues and cul-de-sacs along the way. They are back together, touring next month. New album too, from Madness. Suggs, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Very nice
to be here.
Very nice to see you. And we played Baggy Trousers there, and I wanted to start with it because it was one of the first songs that you wrote. And
that's ironic.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about smash hits before we came on there. Yeah. And I did say when I was 23, there's no way I'll still be performing that flipping Baggy Trousers when I'm an old man of 30.
Careful what you wish for.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But what's amazing about that is it was prescient, because on the surface it was a wacky song about making mischief, but really it was a wonderful observation about life at school.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and it's only when you look back, you have any perspective. But for some reason we had, for all the sort of horror that we were as individuals, we had some sort of moral compass. And I remember writing that song, one of the first ones that I wrote, and I just heard Pink Floyd's Teacher Leave Them Kids Alone, and it sort of occurred to me that, why don't the pupils leave the flipping teachers? So the chorus sort of is half me moaning about it and half me realising it was as difficult for the teachers as it was for me.
Yeah, quite sympathetic to the teachers in some ways. But where did you get that power of observation at that young age? Do you think it was just natural? Were you awake to the world around you?
I don't know. I always liked language. I mean, we didn't have a lot, me and my mum. I lived with my mum. But she had books and I used to read a lot.
Yeah.
So I got a vocabulary. I think that's the sort of most important bit of it. But then it was who I was influenced by, which was Ian Dury, Ray Davies, who were all great lyricists, great narrative lyricists. So that was the sort of school that I went to. John Betjeman, also the poet, and a number of other people. But I had some fortunate access to vocabulary.
Yeah. I've got an Ian Dury song planned for playing later.
Oh, yeah.
But first, the lead single from the new album. This is C'est la vie.
C'est la vie, Madness.
Yeah.
Ever surprising, Suggs. You got Helen Mirren to read the lyrics on the video. Quite a booking. She told Ken Bruce a few weeks ago that you're a mate, and she was happy to do it. Is that true? Is Helen Mirren your mate?
She's not a mate. She stalks me, right? I can't shake her off, right? I said, no, Helen, I don't want you reading out the lyrics of my songs. She wouldn't stop. She chased me down the street. No, I do know her a bit. Yeah, I've got a house in Italy without going on, and she's got a house down the road, but it is rather extraordinary. I mean, she is an extraordinary character. But I remember she was doing that thing, The Queen, would play, or the film or something.
Yeah.
And I was sitting outside a restaurant on the beach, and I said to my friends, look, please don't freak out, the Queen's about to come round the corner. And there she came. And two of my friends fell off their chairs.
Literally. So this new album that C'est la vie has been the lead song for, Theatre of the Absurd presents C'est la vie, first album in 7 years. And for the first time, which I think is quite amazing, you produced this record.
Yeah.
So what did you not have the confidence to produce before, or what is it that made now the right time to do that?
That's interesting. It was almost by osmosis, because we've been through that and everyone's bored of hearing about it, the lockdown and all that, and we were separated for 2 odd years, and then we got back in it. We rented this industrial unit in Cricklewood and just started playing music. And then it was like, well, why don't we just turn on some mics and see what happens? And then it just kind of started to happen completely organically. And before we knew it, we had an album, and we hadn't even thought about why or where it was going to be produced. We'd just sort of done it.
Tour starts next month. You're doing the launch show tonight in London. Are you ready? Have you been rehearsing? Sorry, direct question.
The old flip was going like that.
Do you have to rehearse, don't you, these days?
Of course you do, of course you do, yeah. I mean, we always did, I mean, there's a lot of our work goes into any form of creative endeavour, and we work hard, yeah.
And
so I think we're ready, I hope so.
The thing
if you fluff a few, I'm sorry.
We'll talk about the new album more, and some of your favourite music, and some of your greatest hits in our next segment. Before that, though, let's play The Prince, and I wanted to ask you, you know, this song is you sharing your love of Prince Buster, who you really brought to the attention of most people as an artist. Most people would never have heard of him and thought, we'll go and listen. So without you, he might not have been in mainstream culture at all.
Thank you very much. And I don't take that as anything less than a privilege, you know, that we were just into this music. We were getting more and more obscure into ska and going back into that form of music. And Prince Buster just really stood out for us. His humour, his stance, his clothes, everything. And we wrote that song, we just had no idea that it was going to be a hit, and it was. And thanks to Jerry Dammers from the Specials that it was.
Buster, he sold the heat with a rock.
One we don't hear too often, but it's such a great song. Madness and The Prince, and Suggs is our guest all of this hour. Stay right there.
Hi there, folks, I'd like you me.
That was Night Boat to Cairo to welcome back our guest this evening, Suggs, as you get ready for the new tour and the new album, both unleashed very soon. And the lucky ones get to be at this launch event in Camden, your manor, this evening. You're still Camden through and through, aren't you?
Yeah, it's funny because we were thinking about where we're going to launch the album, and Coco's, which is by Mornington Crescent Tube Station, was called the Camden Palace, then the Music Machine. We went through all the derivations.
Yeah.
But it's in fact where we got our name. We found out we were called the Invaders, and we were supporting a band called Sore Throat. We found out there was another band called the Invaders, and we had to change our name. And Mike, our keyboard player, very kindly made some posters that said Morris and the Miners. And to be honest, I wasn't mad on being Morris, and the others weren't too keen on being the Miners. So it was in that moment in the dressing room at Coco's. He said, well, let's just pick a song from our set list. And Madness just popped up, which in fact was a Prince Buster cover.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to suit us, and has done ever since.
Let's stop for another greatest hit. And this one has often been, I just looked back at your previous tours across the years, this one's often been the show opener, One Step Beyond. Took back to Prince Buster again.
Yeah.
Must have been thrilled that you covered this song, was he?
Yeah, he was, because it was kind of obscure. But it's kind of bizarre, because the A-side of that single was Al Capone, which the Specials then appropriated and turned into Gangsters. So I only met him a couple of times, but it was, in fact, when we played that gig in Finsbury Park, 1992, they said that there's some little geezer outside with a beard and a trilby, reckons he's Prince Buster. I said, well, go on then, let him in, for Christ's sake. And it was Prince Buster, and that's the first time I met him.
What a remarkable thing.
Because we did Madness at the end of our set.
Yeah.
Another one of his songs. He said, yeah, I'll come on. He said, yeah, if you give me $3,000 in cash. I went, oh, go on in. Why could you not?
One step beyond.
Suggs is our guest. Madness are very much back with the new album and the tour. I'd like to talk with you about your one-time label mate and somebody you saw live before you were really making music, Ian Dury.
Yeah.
How influential was he?
Totally. I mean, not saying that I could compare myself to him because he was a genius, but what was great was that I knew I wasn't going to be a very good singer, but I knew I could sort of express myself. And then to hear him singing in his own vernacular, I think it was Ian Hunter from What the Hooples said, you know, when they said, why did you do that song all the way to Memphis? He said, well, I can hardly do a song all the way to Walthamstow, can I? But Ian Dury proved that wrong, you know, and you could sing about Walthamstow and you could sing about your everyday life, and that really was a huge inspiration for me.
Because he gave you confidence that you could make music in your own character and in your own language.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And him and Ray Davies, I think both of them, it was that making small things cinematographic, you know, whether it's having a cup of tea or a caravan or going down the shops. These things are just as important as going down the freeway with a load of chicks with no bras on. You know, to me, that was equally important.
I think your things that you're asking us to relate to are a little more relatable to me than going down the freeway in the manner you describe. Shall we play Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll?
Oh, why not? Eh?
Sex and drugs and rock and roll.
He's an inspiration to our guest tonight, Ian Dury's Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll. And if you'd like to hear more from Madness and more from Suggs, stay right there. Suggs is our guest. It's Greatest Hits Radio, and that was Grey Day, another of those Madness songs that we like to just spend a little time with the lyrics on. I was interested to read you talking about HDM, which I think you got from Nile Rodgers, right? Hidden Deeper Meaning. Which,
you got it.
Which seems to be important to you as an artist.
Well, I didn't realise till I heard him say that, Nile Rodgers, talking about Chic. And then suddenly you hear a whole different spectrum of what he was singing about, what they were singing about. And I didn't think about it at the time, but when I look back, our songs always had what they call pathos. You know, there wasn't like completely happy, they weren't completely sad. You know, that mixture. In fact, it was Neil Tennant who taught me that word, pathos. My wife's been calling me pathotic for years.
Pathological.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, Neil Tennant knows all the words that there are to know, doesn't he, really? So,
exactly.
So,
yeah.
And that, what that really means is the audience can take from Madness what they would like to take.
Well, I think of all good pop music, you interpret it yourself, even if you don't completely understand what the words are, you know.
So the more you have progressed through your career, does writing, recording become quicker or slower?
Sometimes, and sometimes not.
Thank you. That's a very clear answer.
I was just trying to think, But I'll tell you what's interesting. I wrote a couple of songs with Paul Weller recently, and I was finding it a bit complicated, having not been doing it for a while. And it was a song that wasn't really working. And I said to Paul, look, mate, it's only music. And then there was a silence on the phone, and he went, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's the soundtrack of our lives, you know, and that had a big impact on me to invigorate myself back into songwriting for this new album, that how important pop music is, even though you think sometimes it's ephemera or is it ephemera? Is that
it's
a word?
Ephemeral.
Ephemeral.
It's not effeminate.
Effeminate.
It's not effeminate.
Are you allowed to say that anyway?
it's ephemeral. Suggs is our guest. I'd like to play another track from the album. Let's go If I Go Mad. Tell me about this song. Cue this song in for me.
Well, this is a pure lockdown song, and I'm sort of bored going on about it. Everybody's bored hearing about it, innit? But it was literally like, if I go mad without you, you know, and it was starting to get, my wife said you got like performance Tourette's. I was singing at people at bus stops and all running away like that, not him again. I was slightly going mad. Yeah. And it was just an expression of that, you know, and the audience and all that goes around being a performer, you know, without which, you know, your existence shrivels to almost nothing.
If I Go Mad, from Theatre of the Absurd presents C'est La Vie. That's the new album by Madness, coming next month. You're going to want to buy it if you've ever been a Madness fan. And Suggs is our guest, and hearing your music on the radio, something that you're obviously totally used to. Have you ever been somewhere, though, where you've been surprised to hear one of your songs?
Well, funny you should say that. Yeah, I remember when our first single came out, The Prince, and I was walking past a building site, and it was on the radio, and they were whistling, and I nearly fell in the hole. You know, just like, that is really our record. Yeah.
What a great memory. Quick fire, which hit song came the quickest?
Well, it's funny, I remember our second album, Absolutely, we kind of, Dave Robinson, who ran Stiff Records, said, there's no singles. And then in the space of a week, we wrote Embarrassment, Baggy Trousers, and I can't remember another one, 3 hits.
Yeah.
So, it's just that thing you just don't know sometimes.
And which hit song was the biggest labour of love, do you know? Which song just took forever?
I don't know about Take Forever, but One Better Day was a big orchestral scene. That took quite a long time, yeah.
Most of us occasionally catch sight of an old photo. There'd be many times in your life, I'm sure, when you can't escape the images. Has that played with your mind a bit over the years? Isn't that quite I can't use the phrase, head-turning moment?
Yeah, it's like when my kids watch Top of the Pops and go, Dad, you were so little. I said, no, young. Do you know what I mean? But there's one photograph, actually, my daughter's got it I'm looking after her house at the moment. She's got it on the wall. And it's the Two-Tone Tour, and we're sitting on the beach in Brighton with the Specials, the Select, and I think it's Woody, our drummer's 18th birthday. You know what I mean? 18.
That's crazy.
Just how young we were, yeah.
On a personal level, you've had a varied career outside the band. TV presenter, solo artist, radio host.
Excuse me, stand back. Hold up. Watch out. Do any of them mean the same to you as what Madness has done for you? It's been nice, to have other things to do, but ultimately it is the band, it's the band that made me what I am and where I'm happiest. But it's been nice to do other things because it just gives you a change of scene every now and then. Because I wouldn't want to be on the road, like you said earlier, for 6 months at a time now, just to do a few gigs, come in and out, make a record, and then do other things, yeah.
Final question then. You've spoken in the past about challenging upbringings. You spoke about it earlier on, being in a situation where you didn't have a lot. Has what you and has what Madness have achieved together and how you went about it enabled you to escape from that? I mean...
Blimey, who are you?
Very
psychiatrist. What's going on here?
Very often,
I thought I was doing a pop radio interview here. Go on.
I think very often our childhoods really affect us, and it's tough to get rid of those tough times.
Well, funny you should say that, Mark, because I was just talking to a cab driver on the way here, and just when you start in conversation, and it turned out, you had a lot of parallels with me. I do believe we all came from dysfunctional families, pretty much, and then we became a kind of weird dysfunctional family ourselves, and we did have this sort of group psychotherapy as we went along because that's all we had, each other.
You made an amazing contribution to people's lives. You really have, and people are going to enjoy it with the new record.
Well, you too, mate. You too. Hey,
I've just managed to cling on for this long.
I know.
We are going to play Embarrassment.
Received a letter just the other day.